So I've never done one of these screen recordings before, so this will be my first attempt. So bear with me here. But looking at the technical analysis for Bitcoin, and there's a few things that I wanted to point out and thought it might be better for me to talk through it versus just sharing a screen grab and then having you guys try to analyze what I'm looking at. So as you know, I use these colored bands for my trend channel. The red I use as my support. Green is usually my kind of typical highs where I'd want to start trimming out of the position. And then the blue is ultimately where I'd really love for this thing to go. All-time highs, places that it's sometimes touched before but not stayed there for long. Um, and if you look at the price over here on the previous dip that we had back in 2022, you can see that we have this white line here is like the short-term downtrend resistance level. Okay, so the price fell and stayed below that all the way down to almost the red line. So when you come over here and look, we're seeing the same thing. Price is coming up, it's touching that resistance right now. A lot of people are wondering, are we back? Is Bitcoin back? Um, the verdict is out. The verdict's, it's not certain yet. So obviously, this could be a bottom right here, and we could come over, we could break through this, and then we're moving back up. But I hesitate because this resistance is pretty strong, and I have a feeling that when we get back over to it, there's a good chance we might have one more push down into this lower support level of the red. If you come over here and look at this indicator with our momentum, you can see that when these two lines crossed up here, that signaled that we were headed in a downtrend. Okay, now we were still technically in an uptrend, but the official downtrend wasn't until it broke this white line. And over here, again, we have a similar thing. The price is above the zero. It's in an uptrend. We have it cross, beginning our downtrend. You can see all the red, the momentum red here. So same thing happened, okay? And when the price came below this white line, that's when you know, okay, the fun's over, the uptrend's over. We're most likely not going to be making a push up to here. We're most likely now going to be pushing down. And you can see that's what happened. As long as this line was under here, that was our downtrend. And one way you can tell if it's definitely a downtrend or if it's going to reverse is kind of what you see over here. So this came down, right? So the price came down here. And what did it do? It hit this zero line, but it didn't go under. It started to curl back up. The reds flipped to green. And that's how you know, okay, we're still in our uptrend. We're above the zero. We're headed in our uptrend. It came all the way back up. And then when it came down again, it only broke below a tiny bit. But again, it pushed back up, signifying that, hey, our uptrend is not over. But then again, as you can see over here, what happened? Instead of it pushing back up over here to make a higher high, which at the time a lot of people were anticipating, it did the opposite. It broke below these lines, the gap got further apart and confirmed that we are officially in a downtrend, which means that now we have to find a level of support, which I deem as our red line down here in the $62,000 range, which we've already hit, right? But we've got this resistance over here that we have to break through as well. The other thing that I wanted to point out is if you look at when price, so this red line right here on both sides, that's like the bottom. So the one thing that happens is the bottom is usually in before we get confirmation of that uptrend happening. So if you look at our indicator here, you can see that our bottom was in on this day, but the yellow and purple line did not cross until a little bit later, where we also have a green diamond up here. Okay, and then that signifies, hey, now we're headed in an uptrend. If you come over here and look, our yellow line is still above our purple line. So even though price is pushing up, we don't have that flip yet. Okay. So that's why I'm not super bullish on our bottom being in yet. I think that we're going to have a little bit more downward momentum and pressure before that happens. That said, buying anywhere down here, in my opinion, where these wicks are coming down in the 62 to 65 range, if we get another push down into those ranges, I mean, personally, I'm going to start buying. I haven't bought any Bitcoin yet. I've been waiting for this. It's funny because when price was up here, everyone was freaking out. Everyone was buying. Everyone was telling me they were buying. And I was telling them all to start trimming, to start selling, to start being cautious. Nobody believed me. I did my TA at the time, which was rudimentary compared to now. And everyone was like, you're crazy. There's no way this is going to come all the way down to 65K. And I was like, that's what I'm seeing. I'm not touching Bitcoin. In hindsight, I should have just shorted the damn thing and I would have made as much money as buying down here now, but I didn't. So, and then the other last thing I want to point out is we all know the Willie from our previous Discord. You know, when we're up here, we're in an uptrend. When we're down here, we're in a downtrend. Anything in the middle is kind of just the ebb and flow in between. So on the previous move down, right, we had all the way up here, we broke below, and then it came all the way down. We had that little push up to retest resistance and then back down, and it stayed down in this range, right? Then you can see what happened when all these other things started happening. We got the diamond coming up. We got the flip of these lines. We got this BT extender pushing up green from smaller to bigger. The flip here. We also got this huge spike up from the bottom, breakout all the way up into, hey, we're headed in an uptrend now, okay? Over here, you can see we don't have that yet. We still have kind of this choppy momentum happening here. And the last thing that I'm kind of looking for is over here in this indicator. Now, this one had flipped green all the way over here. A lot of times that doesn't quite happen yet. Usually this is still red and doing kind of what you see over here, okay, where it's red but it's getting smaller before the green, and then you have like this flip between this pink color and the green, which usually signifies the downtrend is now in an uptrend. That usually is sitting in this area, but for whatever reason it wasn't on this one. So over here, as you can see, we're getting this pink bar, which is a good sign. And if we get some green bars over here, that's a good sign. But as you can see with this on BTC before, it didn't signify that we were completely out of that downtrend. We still had some more downward momentum to retouch support. So that's what I'm seeing here. And why I think that once we get a little bit more downward pressure, another retest or two, I think that Bitcoin has most likely found its bottom. And I do not think that we are headed for the worst case scenario. Honestly, I think what's going to happen is the war news is going to break, that we are over with that. And I think Bitcoin is just going to rip higher. I don't think we're going to have as long term of a finding kind of how we're moving up as we did before. I think this is going to come over here, it's going to touch, and I think we're going to move up pretty quickly, just like we've seen a huge move on Coinbase. I think Hood's starting to move up. So for that reason, when price comes down here again and retouches in this 65 range or below 70, I'm going to start buying into Bitcoin in anticipation for this. Because the upside to the previous highs, you can see, is about 74%. Depending on how long it takes to get to all-time highs again, it could do one of these. We could have more of a V shape. I don't know. But ultimately, it's 1% potential gain, and that gets higher the longer it takes. Um, but I always need to make sure I point out the worst case scenarios. And from the price we are now to this red support, it looks like we've got about a negative 12%, which to me is not very big, which is why I personally am fine. This comes down to 65. That, decrease is going to get less, maybe 5%, which means my downside is only maybe 5% if we have something. But of course, if, all of a sudden China jumps into the war and now World War III is kicking off or something, there is a potential 63% downside to the lowest support that I have for trend channels. Okay? So just keep all that in mind if you're buying Bitcoin and deciding what to do. But I like what's happening here with our momentum getting smaller. We saw that it was bigger, got smaller, 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 smaller. So all these, these boxes and arrows that I put over here are all me trying to anticipate, hey, based on previous action, what's going to happen? When is this uptrend going to kick off? And as you can see, it all kind of aligns that I think confirmation that the uptrend is going to happen around here, beginning of, sometime at the end of April, May, could be sooner. And all the indicators are going to finally flip here. But personally, I think if this is more of a V shape that we're going to have, I don't want to be waiting for these indicators and buying over here. I want to be buying when this price drops down to the 65 below 70 range again, start buying, and then ultimately put a stop loss somewhere over here in the 60 range. I would put the stop loss below whatever this low was, which looks like it's 59,930. So I'd put my stop loss just below 60K or something and know that, hey, I might lose 12%, but if this breaks, I don't want to be in it for potential 60% down, because that's just 60% of my money that I could have lost 10%, gotten out, bought here with 10% less, and now I've got that much more of an upside to go, And then the last thing I wanted to quickly point out while we're here is looking at the current trend channel, just so you can see what I'm seeing in regards to those levels. And this is our current downtrend that we're having. You can see that we're coming up. We're testing support or resistance up here. It's happened twice. Okay. This has been kind of our base support. This is our holy shit support level. This is where I think the bottom for a lot of these tech stocks and Bitcoin was, which was on February 5th, right before the Super Bowl, when everyone was freaking out and my account was being chopped in half from this big push down that we had. So that's why I think this is the bottom. I don't think we're going to come down and retest this. If we don't, again, my thesis for Bitcoin making a move up off of support, this red line here, we lose that. Okay, so this is what I think. We've seen this with Coinbase. We've seen this with Hood. We saw this with Netflix, where the price came down. It bottomed. We didn't realize it bottomed. It started to consolidate, making smaller, higher lows, which is what we're seeing here. So this white line here, this is going to be my buy zone. So price is up here now. I'm not chasing here. I'm going to wait for this to come back in touch. You can see it's happened over here. This was the bottom of this particular part, right? And these were making higher lows. And even though we had a push up, we kind of came back down and tested where that would be. So I don't want to be buying here. I want to be buying down here. Same thing. This is here. It's up. I'm going to wait for it to come down in here somewhere. Like I said, it's the 65 range. Then I'm going to buy Bitcoin. It comes down. I might buy again. It gets here. That's going to be resistance. That's the key moment. When it gets over here, what happens? Does it push up and then fall? Ultimately, I'm a buyer of Bitcoin anytime it's here and pretty much above this red line and here. If something happens and Bitcoin comes over to here, breaks down, touches this, I'm okay with that. But when Bitcoin breaks this, drops down here, I want to be out. I don't want to wait. I'd rather get out here, lose my 10%, have something happen and have it flip back up. And if that flip back up happens, boom, boom, hey, I'll be buying Bitcoin here. I'll buy it here. I'll buy it here. Okay? So just keep that in mind when trading Bitcoin. That's what I'm looking at. Good luck, guys.